let's talk about this nonsense ISIS stuff. Essentially, there is a tongue-in-cheek thing going on here, but this is Mossad, CIA members, and anybody who thinks the CIA is the United States, it isn't. The CIA is its own entity. I mean, for the last 50 years, ladies and gentlemen, they've been dealing drugs on the streets of America. I mean, since the Vietnam War, they've been shipping in heroin. Since the Medellin cartel was in existence, they've been shipping in cocaine. The Vatican Bank has been doing it. The French government has been involved in laundering their money through the French Connection. If you watch the movie with Popeye Doyle, you know that heroin was the main commodity in that story. But it goes all the way back to the East India Company and the British control over opium, and they've used this model over and over again. And the CIA is a corporation. It is not representative of the people. And the Mossad is a criminal organization that is run out of a criminal state, of the hole-in-the-wall state of Israel, along with the Mi6, criminal organization, top and bottom, full of honeypot pedophilia and murder and mayhem. And what my point is now is that we've got this new ISIS thing because they want to redraw the map so Israel can grow their nation map, which has been there since 1948, all the way from the Tigris-Euphrates River all the way down to the Nile, and that will be their country after that, because that's what the plan has been from the beginning. But they have to destroy the Lebanon. They have to destroy Syria. They have to destroy the entire structure and construct of that region. And it looks like ISIS is going to be their vehicle. What's your say on that?
Well, the interesting thing, Daryl, is that there's some great cartoons going around about the hypocrisy levels here. Obviously, there were all these disparate groups who had received funding in order to fight Syria. And they were called Jebel al-Nusra, the Nusra Front, and the Free Syrian Army. There was a host of names that they were all under at one point. And at that time, of course, we got these amazing photographs of John McCain actually meeting with them over in Syria. And he'd rubber stamped through the committees that he's on, the money and the weapons and the training and the whole thing. And of course, all of a sudden, they get defeated. The big front out there, it has been defeated in Syria. The Syrian army has taken back some of the most important sites that had been taken over by the Free Syrian Army, or whatever we want to call them at that, whatever they were, the Syrian rebels, depending on where you're standing. They've just taken huge amounts back. Arguably with some Russian backing, arguably with some Iranian backing, arguably with Hezbollah backing from Lebanon. We don't know exactly who's been doing what on the ground because the smog of war is all over it, but we do know that they've had a good beating. So what we're looking at now, I suspect, Daryl, is round two, which is we need to take out the Syrian army once and for all, whether or not that includes Hezbollah from Iran and Hezbollah from Lebanon and some Russian Spetsnaz as well, whoever make up the Syrian defense forces. That's why we get this ludicrous situation where Obama is now going to war against ISIS, who are the Nusra Front, who are the same people that have just, being financed.
And the head spokesman for the whole group is a Mossad Zionist Jew who changed his name and put on a turban and grew a beard. He's Mossad.
Absolutely outstanding. And of course they're aligning themselves with Israel against Hezbollah.
And Mohammed, did you hear about the Israel has been medically treating in Israeli hospitals these ISIS people, and now they turn around and say, "Oh, ISIS is on our border. They're over in the Golan, and we're under threat here." This is a pretext for them to invade.
Of course, and the point is that the ISIL fighters are actually going against Syria. They're getting ready to fight. What they've done, they've taken an extreme group of the Saudi Takfiris, as they're called by most Sunnis. They've taken an extreme group that even the Saudis stay away from. These are the Takfiris. They're nicknamed the Super Salaf. These are Salaf who say even the Saudis are not radical enough. As a religious group, they've always been there. They're quite a small group historically. Most of their leaders are in jail in different parts of the world. And they call for the Islamic leadership of caliphate, the sort of leadership that we saw under the Ottomans. And basically that is the leadership which the Saudis, and in fact all of the puppet regimes in the Middle East, are terrified of, because if you get rid of all the countries that exist within Arabia Felix that were created in Versailles in 1922-23, if you get rid of all of those, you go back to a caliphate leadership, a single president over the whole of the Muslim lands, and that gets rid of all the other nice little shows which are on the road and all the little milking sessions which are going on, all this oil coming out the ground and all these families, their wealth and prestige would disappear overnight. So they're terrified of this group, and they are absolutely backed by Israel. There's no way that the Saudis would ever support a movement that called for the overthrow of the Saudi regime. That's just illogical. So we know full well that the CIA and the British historically have never allowed the Saudis to go down that route either, because of the importance of Makkah and the division of the Muslim community, which I'll cover another time. So there's a lot of politics as to why that's not the case. This is an Israeli-backed organization, and it is there for round 2 against Syria. And one of the big things that Obama's just come out with is this idea that we are going to send US Air Forces to bomb ISIL even if they're in Syria, i.e. they're wanting to start bombing raids on Syria. That's what this whole game is about, is now we're going to do some bombing raids to soften up Syria from the sky like we've done everywhere else, and follow with boots on the ground, because the boots on the ground last time failed, so America's got to soften them up from the sky. This will be the biggest mistake that the US Air Force will have ever made in its life.
But Mohammed, here's the other thing. I think destroying America's military prowess is part of the plan, because America's slated for destruction, much like Russia was, much like Germany was in the 1930s. They need to have a country that they've completely raped and ripped off, and America seems to be that country now. But the bottom line is that there's reasons why they want that Syrian government to fall into the hands of the Israelis. That's part of their map. Take a look at the map in the Knesset that stands right behind anybody speaking at their podium. It's a picture all the way from the Tigris-Euphrates River, which is Baghdad, which is the center of their Talmudic sickness, all the way down to the Nile River. And they've always claimed that as what they call Ezra Israel, which is the greater Israel. And they've never kept that a secret. It's on the shekel.
It's on the national flag, Daryl. It's on the national flag. The 2 white lines on the blue background with the Star of David in the middle, those 2 white lines represent those 2 rivers, the Nile and the Euphrates. That's what they mean. And they're saying, since the time they created that flag, they said, this is our patch of land, and our objective is to expand this flag over all that territory. Since day one. And
that ISIS will be, once they get most of their goals met, including removing Egypt, well, because they own Egypt now. Sisi is Jewish, by the way, and so is the leader of the Turks. Erdogan, his family's Jewish. If you go and start and you know that the foundation of the Saudi regime is Jewish as well. So once everything gets played out and this ISIS usefulness is gone, they'll just pull the plug on them and do them in, because their whole leadership is from the Mossad. It's like everybody thinks America is independent of Israel. They're not. Israel runs America, and so all of the activities that America is engaging themselves in globally oh, those bad Americans. The Americans are so stupid they don't know their whole country is being led by a fifth column. And it's the same in Saudi Arabia. It's the same in Turkey. The Turks think, oh, you know, that they are an independent voice for Islam. Give me a break. Ataturk was Jewish. I mean, we've been over this.
What we're watching, Daryl, what we're watching with ISIL right now is a rerun of the Young Turk movement.
Exactly.
The so-called Young Turk movement that were actually, or as we now know, the majority of the leadership of the Young Turk movement were Jews, wife-swapping Jews, Donmei, that operated out from lodges in Salonika in Greece. What we've got now is a group of crypto Jews who are heading up an ostensibly Islamic movement out from Israel with a view to trying to overthrow Syria. This is the Young Turk movement. They're not Muslims. There's no practice of Islam there. No. You know, in terms of the actual faith of Islam, Daryl, I hope you don't mind me saying this. I try to avoid the religious element, but just for listeners out there, because I sometimes see some people commenting on Zero Hedge and they're very confused by the behaviour which they see on the media, even though they should be a lot better educated in these things. The Quran says that to slay a life, to murder someone, is as if you've murdered the whole of mankind. Not you've murdered the Muslims or you've murdered the Jews. It's as if you've murdered the whole of mankind. And if you save a life, it's as if you've saved the whole of mankind. Now, if you really believe that's the word of God, if you really believe that, or as I do as a practicing Muslim, if I believe that's the truth, then I believe that if I kill somebody, murder somebody, I'm going to stand before my Maker answerable for a crime as if I've killed the whole of humanity. If you really believe that, do you think that people can behave like that in ISIL and truly be Muslim? That's just rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
They're a bunch of mercenary mind control lunatics being led by the Jewish influence and the Zionists. And
who has that murderous history, Daryl? Who has that murderous history of cruelty? The child rapes, the organ donor. They turn up ostensibly into an earthquake zone with all the paramedic support. They're harvesting organs, for goodness sake.
Yes.
Who do we need to look at to see where that mentality is? Somebody's cutting necks. All right, maybe the videos are fake. Let's pretend they're real. Someone doing that for video purposes. It's the same mentality. Yes. The MO is there, period. It's got nothing to do with Muslims or Christians or Buddhists. They don't do this as a modus operandi. The only people that do are these Zionist Talmudic morons.
That's right. And Muhammad, here's the thing, and you might have missed this in your press, but the Zionist Jew who claims to be, he's a crypto, he wants back into French politics. That's Nicolas Sarkozy. And we've talked about his grandfather being the lead rabbi in Salonika, Greece of the Donmei.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the guy that gave him his formation as a child. And this guy's going to take France over again because they're going to install him just like they cheated the Scots out of their election. I mean, with fraud and intimidation. I mean, some of this stuff is becoming comical. But see, here's the thing. There's an undercurrent of education in a small group of us because, let's face it, Muhammad, the majority of human beings are too stupid to wipe their own backside. I mean, they're still getting 50,000 people to walk about global warming in the face of some of the coldest weather anybody's ever seen, and they're still getting people to come out and say it's global warming. You have to wonder how stupid people are. But there is a group. There is a solid group of well-educated people. I would say it's in the 8 to 10% area. And if you get 8 to 10% of the West, for example, armed and ready, that's way more than any military force on the planet. And you know, if there's anger involved here as these things start taking shape, oh gosh, hold on to your hat here because that 10% will do some serious changing. And I'm hoping, against hope, that 10% is angry enough. Now,